bulbectomy.
Dave, you've got some of these new names that you've come up with. Google Gnostics. What are some of the other ones?
Well,
Different.
I stole thermometer instead of micrometer from Jim Atkinson
Oh, I
because
thought that was like the thermometer too, right? Yeah,
yeah,
it feels good.
yeah, it feels good. Thermometer is just the inaccurate way of measuring things. But bulbectomy, we had a car in our shop, and the lady brought it to us, and it was actually
What is ectomy? Ectomy must be the
s-
removal of something.
surgical removal of a body part.
Ah, okay.
So now, as it relates to cars, and this is where this comes from, is stuff that we see in our shop every day. We had this young girl, she's in school. I think she was going to nursing school or something. Anyway, we test drove her car, and her car wasn't shifting at all. She thought she had a major transmission problem. And I said, "There's no check engine lights," and she said no. And with the problem she was having, there had to be a check engine light. So I pulled over, I shut the car off, and I did a bulb check, and there was no check engine light there.
She was right. There was no check engine light coming on, which is good because you don't want to see a check engine light, except for about that first 10 seconds when you start the car, turn the key on, that bulb should illuminate. So
That is called a bulb check. So if you're out buying a used car, and even doing a bulb check doesn't guarantee there's actually a bulb there, because a lot of people even trick that and they wire that bulb up to something else, so it still turns on. But when you turn your key forward, without even starting the engine, everything on the dashboard should light up. The brake light, the ABS light, the airbag light, all the lights should come on. And if you don't see a check engine light or a service engine soon light, there's a problem.
Yeah.
So if you're out car shopping and you see that happen.
So what's the deal? So she just recently purchased this car, thinks everything is great, and then suddenly, boom, it's not shifting right.
It's not shifting right.
So she shows up, Tri-City Transmission. You're doing the test. Whoa, no
Yeah,
check
so
engine
she
light.
thought, and there was definitely electrical problem, and it wasn't that she had a major transmission problem, but the problem that she was having was probably a major transmission problem to the people who were selling the vehicle. So they literally went in, they pulled the gauge cluster out, and they went to the back, and I put a picture of this on our Facebook page. You can find our Facebook at bumpertobumperradio.com, and you can see they literally went in and just pulled that one bulb out, put it all back together. So, she just went and bought this car.
Problem solved, right? Car's fixed, lights out, everything is good.
Right. So anyway, it didn't turn out to be a major problem, but they didn't know that. But she could have really been hosed on this deal, and we see that on a regular basis. People trying to get rid of cars where there's something wrong with them, and then you find out there's a repair going on. And I see people over and over buy these used cars, and they don't have them checked out. Because, in even just scanning this car, you would find that there was a plethora of codes.
So what ended up being wrong with this car where she was ready to buy a transmission that she didn't need?
There was a bad internal transmission wiring harness.
Okay.
So it was shorting out on the inside, and that's all the problem was.
And that cured. So someone could have fixed this car for a few $100 probably instead of selling it. They probably that's the other thing we talked about some incompetence in shops, Dave. And I forget what example we were talking about. I think you had another car.
Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Jeep Cherokee. The guy just bought it, and you go in and you find it just had a repair done on the car. And the guy just buys it, brings it to you, thinks he has a transmission problem. And meanwhile, it's something totally unrelated. It's an engine problem that the last shop who worked on it, probably the poor people that owned the car just before that, and I don't say poor literally, but they went in, they had a problem with their car. They could have got repaired. And as a matter of fact, they did pay to repair it. The people didn't do the job right, so they probably ditched the car. Now it shows up at your place.
Somebody just bought it.
They thought they had a bad transmission, and then probably the shop gave them some bad advice. They probably said, "Oh, we did that head job in a car, but man, I'd sell this thing. It's just not right." It's tough.
And actually, it's a pain in the neck to diagnose a repair where somebody's already repaired it and done it wrong, because now it's not like a natural problem. You're
right.
You're used to seeing patterns and things that make sense, and all of a sudden you're dealing with something that doesn't make sense because somebody did a repair wrong. One of the questions we ask on almost any vehicle we look at, when there is a problem, we say, "Has there been any repairs on the vehicle recently?" We say in the last 30 days. And they go, "Well, just an oil change." And I say, "What? Anything counts here? Did you get a new car stereo? Did you get a set of brakes? Did you get some new tires?" did
Everything about-
anything happen to this car? Well, as a matter of fact, I had a brake job. Okay, now your car won't go backwards, and you had a brake job. Well, they left a caliper bolt out, or a caliper bolt came loose, and now it's locking up against the wheel, and the car won't go backwards. So we're looking for everything where they wouldn't think that was even an important detail as related to the transmission.
Well, and people don't tell you things either. I mean, we had a similar circumstance this week. We have an Infiniti that comes in. You know, the girls' parents own the car, and my boyfriend can fix it. He worked on a car once, 25 years ago. You know,
Or read about
or
one.
he has a crescent wrench. So, you know, so they're working on the car and they're telling us, but they don't tell us everything. We're going in, we're checking, we're like, man, this doesn't make sense. You know, the sensor test's good. What else did you do? Oh, nothing. Like, no, we're due some more diving around. Like, wait a minute. This car has a new starter on it. Why does this have a new starter? Oh, well, when he was doing something else, this happened, and you know, whatever. So he's working on the car, doesn't know what he's doing, puts a starter on that it didn't need because he didn't understand how something worked. When he put the starter in, he broke the flywheel. Well, guess what? The flywheel is the 360-degree ring to tell the computer the position of the engine. Well, when it's missing a couple of those teeth, the computer doesn't know where it is. So we're looking at one problem, but we don't know. I mean, we spent hours, and all of a sudden now we get the rest of the story. So besides getting your car to a competent shop and letting somebody work on the car that knows what they're doing and maybe keep it out of the shade tree guy, we got to know everything. I mean, we really do have to know all the details because, like you said, Dave, it's not a normal problem. It's not organic anymore. Now we've got to go back and make sure anything you touched was done right. And that has to be done first before we can even go to the original problem.
I hate to say this, Matt, because I want to think everybody's competent in our industry, but sometimes people get service, and the service they maybe think it's good and it's done on time and everything. But if it's poor service over the life of that car, it really that's why I see these cars. They're 90,000 miles. They're just POSs, you know. But I see the next one's got 180,000 miles on it. It's a cream puff. It's clean one owner.
Yeah.
What happened? This one had great service. I literally have a car in my shop right now, 220,000 miles on it. They've gone to the same technician the entire time, and I drove this car with him, and it drove great.
Yeah.
And original transmission, and the only thing I could find wrong with it, it had a harsh torque converter lockup. But I mean, in a vehicle where we normally put transmissions in at 130,000 miles, these people went that much further over. And if you take care of your car and you get good, competent service, it makes a huge difference.
You have to love your car. Talk nice when she performs well for you. Praise that car. Say, good puppy, you know?
No.
Talk nice to that car. You rely on it.
Do you name your cars?
No, my dad did once. We had Mazda, the Mazda, and I was talking to another customer the other day. She had a name for her car. It was a Hyundai. I thought it was great.
If you got a name for your car, text it into us right now because I want to know. My wife's got this new Grand Cherokee, and she named it Queen Bee.
Yeah. Well, I think your wife thinks she's the queen bee in the new Cherokee. But what you don't want to do, you know, when your battery dies because you didn't get your battery tested, don't start calling your car names, though. You know, pick a name now while it's a good name, not when it's your fault for not going into your shop and getting the battery tested.
Hey.
Because this time of year, your car's not a dirty, rotten SOB because it has a bad battery.
You're the dirty, rotten SOB because you're not taking care of your puppy.
That's right. So what do we say? Interstate batteries. If you're going to need a battery. They're going to last about 30 months in Phoenix. So if you're in that 30-month area, you want to get into an Interstate battery shop. Most all the bumper-to-bumper radio shops have Interstate batteries. Go to the Interstate Battery All-Store. Get your battery tested. It's free at most places. And then be comfortable throughout the summer, not have to wonder.
Car guy got a dead battery this week, but you know what? I heard it. I was getting lunch, and I got back in my car, and I cranked it over, and it was just a little slow, and I'm like, Then I went coffee at the coffee shop, and I cranked it over. It was just a little bit slower. I drove straight back to the shop and put a battery in it, and you know.
Our cars talk to us. So when your battery's talking to you, or when your car's maybe passing gas and it has that smell, it's talking to you. So